Great. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. We hope you had an amazing fall welcome weekend with your students. So we're going to get started with our agenda for today. We'll start off with introductions, then we'll talk about some types of adjustment issues, strategies for our families, go over some great resources, as well as some upcoming events, and then you'll have time for questions.
Hi, everybody. My name is Julia Smith, and I am a psychotherapist at Counseling and Psychological Services.
Hi, I'm Kamala Kayam. I'm an Associate Dean of Students and the Director of Student Engagement, and I've been at Fairfield for about 11 years.
Hello, my name is PG Lucky. I'm the Associate Director of Residence Life.
And I'm going to be the first one to speak today because I think, in a way, our office up at Counseling and Psychological Services sees a lot of students at this time of year. And the primary thing that we see when it's September is the adjustment to college process. We see a lot of first-year students. And the primary thing that we see up at counseling is about homesickness. And I think the most important thing to remember about homesickness is that it's a very normal, universal response to leaving home. If you have a student who's crying and feeling a little inconsolable and is telling you that they want to come home or they miss home, this is very normal. In fact, we do polling, or we interview students at the beginning of the first year. And what we find is about 70% of students report feeling homesickness in the first couple of weeks. Now, other studies put that number up at about 80 to 85%. So again, this is really a universal feeling, and just to know that this will go down. By the end of the first semester, we see it down at about 40%, 30%, 20%. It keeps going downwards, but sometimes it can even extend into the second semester. So again, please know that if your student is experiencing this, this is very normal. One of it is just they miss you. They're very attached to you. And this is also just an abrupt cessation of all their familiar routines and schedules. And they're adjusting to a brand new culture. It's a little bit like culture shock, which we'll talk about. But please know that homesickness is very normal. It's hard to deal with because there's not a lot you can say. We'll talk about what to try to say. But it really is a process of time passing. So along with homesickness, what we're really talking about is transitions. And if you look back on your student's life, this might ring a bell. And we all deal with transitions, but we all deal with transitions in a different way. So how did that? Okay. So sorry about that. It seems to have a life of its own today. So, if this is, you're going to see maybe how it used to go, it's going that way. Just to know, this is just a big transition time, and you might see some old behaviors emerge, and you might even see them in yourself, because this is a big transition for everybody. So rest assured, again, that that's quite normal. So putting this transition into context, this you see in front of you is a parenting handout. And what you see, it's called the Circle of Security, and it's an attachment-based parenting guide. And they hold that there's sort of two really important things amongst the other things that parents provide for their child. One is they provide a secure base. So there at the top you see a hand on the circle. That's a secure base which the child can explore their world. And then the parent also creates a safe haven for which the child can go back into. So if you think about the very early days of just being a baby, maybe the space that the child was in was just a little tiny room, and when they would crawl across the floor, they might bang into something, that would cry, and then they're scooped up to their safe haven. That's a complete revolution around that circle. And then toddlerhood, the first steps, they fall, again, scoop back in. Then there's the first day of school. Then there might be the first sleepover. Then there's the driver's license. No, it's a little fast, but you see what I'm saying. This circle keeps getting bigger and bigger, but always the same thing. They go out, explore their world, come back in for comfort and support. By the time your student was in high school, they might have been out on that circle more than they were in. What we know that when your student came to college, that circle got really gigantic. And what we know is that some students feel much more comfortable at the bottom half of that circle in their safe haven. So that just being out on the top half of that circle will instigate a little stress and a little anxiety. So you might be seeing that because, again, though they're still on that circle and they'll be on that circle for life, that they might just be feeling, because it's going to take them a while to come in, some even a year if you're joining us from another country. It's just a bigger revolution, and they will feel that. And you're probably feeling it too, but they will feel it because, again, they're in this new culture, this new place. At the same time that this is happening, that they are on this big circle that they've always been on, their own circle is starting to emerge. And again, it's this very small circle, almost like it was when they were a baby. But what's happening is this is developing within the context of our bigger university circle. So there's this safe arching circle that they can feel safe in to explore, to start really creating their own circle, getting their hands on the circle. They get to decide really what they're going to explore. They get to decide what they need for themselves to make them feel secure enough to keep going out every day. So sometimes I sit with my students and I make these circles and we talk about, what do you want to explore? So maybe it's I want to join Glee Club. So okay, so great, that's a goal at the top of the circle. And then what do they need for themselves at the bottom? Well, maybe I'll call my mom or dad, or maybe I'll come back and watch a friend's show, or something that helps them recharge themselves after they've been out doing something that's a little bit adventurous. So one of my students said to me at the very beginning of the year, I knew I was losing something when I came here, meaning that homesickness, but I didn't realize I was gaining something as well. And that's the exciting part. If you can start trying to anchor your student into this idea of this emerging circle, and that will maybe key into that really excited part. Okay. So just talking about the transition to college and putting it on a graph, what we often see at the beginning is this honeymoon period. Excitement, lots of enthusiasm, and how great it's going to be, and I'm going to make friends the first day, and everything's going to be great. And then they get here, and what they find is it's a little harder to make friends than maybe they thought about, or the academic work is a little bit more than they bargained for. So we see this honeymoon period kind of giving way to just a little bit of just seeing a different reality, and kind of we see that students going down the curve a little bit into that homesickness. Then what we see as they start adjusting, oh, okay, I can do this, and they start seeing their way through it, and they start going back up the slope again. Don't be surprised if you see a W curve, because they might be adjusting and then they might come back home, or something happens and they go back down again and come up. That's also very normal. I've seen students go on quite a roller coaster ride. I've also seen students just blow right through this. They go very quickly. Some go very slowly. So please know that they're going to go at their own pace, at their own time, and there's nothing right or wrong with any of those ways through this transition curve. What it can look like. Sometimes we see with the adjustment to college that it can actually look like full-blown depression or anxiety. We see students, they might want to miss class, they might start feeling down, they might have panic attacks, they may stop eating, they feel nauseous, sick to their stomach. So there's this thing that we see. We call this adjustment disorder, but it doesn't really mean anything's wrong with it. It just means that adjustment's hitting them very hard. If you're seeing that, what you'll notice is the key difference is that when the student goes home, that the symptoms improve. And sometimes you can see this on one day, and then I'll see the student a week later, and they're fine. It can go so quickly. You can be very concerned about a student, and then all of a sudden something clicked, or they joined a club. So just be prepared that if you're seeing that, again, that can go very quickly. They're very resilient at this age, and I've seen it really pass. How you can help the process. The first thing I start with students is I validate them and I normalize where they are. And the fact is, this is hard. I often joke that if any of us had to go out next week and move into a room with someone we didn't know, we would have a tough time. We'd feel stressed. We'd miss our children, our animals, our home. So this is just a normal feeling. So to just validate where they are, I think that's really helpful. They really feel that. And maybe share your own experience of adjustment as well, because we all have them. I remember moving to Hong Kong. That was an adjustment. So listen in for self-criticism and help your student to strive for more self-compassion. Studies show that if a student can develop more compassion towards themselves, such as instead of thinking, I can't do this, changing that to I'm learning to do this, that goes a long way in helping with the adjustment process. It's something you can listen into and maybe help reframe a little bit, because they've never done this before. So by definition, it's a new experience. Be available to them, but don't rush to solve the problems. That emerging circle is really precious and important. So the more they can start problem solving and also utilizing the resources on campus, the different places that they can get help, that will help them a lot as well. Encourage involvement. This is one of my number one things. It helps, as you can see, the studies show that it really helps alleviate homesickness. And if you want, brainstorm with your student, find out what activities look good, maybe what they want to explore, what resonates with them. And this Friday, we have our annual clubs fair, which will have over 100 clubs and organizations represented. And your student can go around the different booths and decide where they want to be. And just to tell you, there will be students manning those booths that I've seen in the past that are now fully adjusted and are in student leadership positions, which is just always wonderful to see. So this is a great thing to encourage your student to do. Then again, that's Friday. I think it starts at 4 o'clock. So. Suggest making a schedule for them. High school is highly regimented. Everybody's on a very similar schedule. They come to college. Everybody's on a different schedule. That can be really disorienting. So taking time to schedule a day, saying, at 9, I'm going to get up and eat breakfast, and then I'm going to go to class, and then I'm going to go to the gym, and then you get it. So they know what they're going to be doing the whole day. The first couple of weeks, that can go a long way to helping them feel grounded and oriented, and it reduces their stress level. Helping to break down the calendar. So looking at a semester for a student, when they've got that homesick feeling, I'm not going to see my family, they can get really sort of stressed and anxious. If you can encourage them to look at, well, let's see, there's the family weekend is coming up, or I'm going home for Columbus Day. If you start chunking those bits down, that they can see that it's really not the whole time, or if it is, what's in place, the Skyping, or what's in place that's going to help them feel more connected, more on that circle, so that they know what's happening and they don't get that feeling that that's just such a long time for them. I find that's very helpful with students. And my best for last, which is stress management. So there's no way around that. We, as humans, experience all these novel experiences as stress. That's just how we respond. So what really helps when coming to a new situation is to run, is to move the body so that you're not letting all of those sort of stress hormones sort of build in the system. This is good advice for home too.
Yeah.
Any kind of movement, exercise is going to help. Combining that activity with socializing is wonderful. I think we have 45 classes at the Recplex I don't know, that might be a little high, but they have a lot. They have yoga, they've got Roomba, they've got spinning. So doing that together just also ups that stress management effect. Engaging in mind-body activities, meditating, prayer, deep breathing, really helpful right now. And then taking a break is also very important to just get some time away. And how we can help. We are, but going a little fast through there, don't know how that's happening, but
wanna go back?
yes, I do. So we are counseling and psychological services. We are located in Dolan Hall. We're right next to the health center, which I'll talk a little bit about, but we are up on the hill. We're a little far away, a little hard to get to, but some people like that because it's quite private, quite confidential. So what we offer is confidential and free services with a licensed professional. We have a brief term model. So what we do, if we feel that a student has a little bit more than they might need weekly or more intensive therapy, we have great referrals in the community to help them. We also offer crisis management, so we are available through public safety on a 24/7 basis to assist with any kind of psychiatric emergency on campus. And we also offer unlimited group therapy to include grief group. I'm going to be running a yoga for stress group, which is, I think, going to be great. That's going to be in the Recplex. So we have a lot of good things to help students with the transition process. So please, if you are concerned about your student, please send them up to see us. We are really here to help them. We also, like I said, are right next door to the health center. Now, I mentioned earlier that homesickness can sometimes look like stomach distress or something else physical. So our nurses are really trained to recognize maybe this is something other than a stomach ache. So they will walk them over to us. And same with us, if we see a student who feels down, we might say, we think you might be feeling sick, and we bring them over there. So we have a really nice way of interfacing with the health center. And again, we are located right next door to each other. So if your child has injury or illness, they can go right up to the health center. If they're feeling really sad and homesick, they can come up and see us. And just, it can take a while. And of course, all things that are worth doing take time. And it can be hard to let that time pass for students and for parents, because it feels hard to have a student who's so distressed and so unhappy. But this too shall pass. And what we see is once students get over this is that they really adjust well and, again, take leadership roles and feel great about being a STAG. So thanks so much for letting me speak today, and I'll be here for questions at the end. Thank you.
Great. So let's talk about some of the research that we have on campus. We'll start off with residence life. In every residence hall, we have a professional staff member living there. So literally, your student has access to them. Their hours change to really accommodate them. They actually extend their hours to the evening, because we know a lot of students will get out of class and spend a lot of their time socializing within the residence hall after 5 o'clock. So they go beyond the usual university office schedule. With that said, we also have resident assistants. So there's a resident assistant on every floor of all of our first-year halls. Again, our resident assistants, as well as our area coordinators, are there to build community, to ensure that your student is really transitioning well, and to support them in any way. They go through intense training. We're here about 2 weeks ahead of time before all of our students to ensure they were aware of all of our resources. And they even went through trainings of different scenarios on how to support your students through crisis. We have our interfaith peer ministers, which is a basis out of which are based out of our campus ministry department, our student diversity and multicultural affairs department, as well as our residential life department, as well as our Juhan department. So it's a collaboration of interfaith leaders that are doing some interfaith trainings and support and hosting conversations to really help our students explore spiritually. And then we have our care team, which is based out of our Student Diversity and Multicultural Affairs Office, which are students to help support through difficult dialogues. Again, there's one assigned for every first-year building. Our Suite 96 is where our Residence Life office is. As you see, there's our contact information, and we're there. We actually have an area coordinator on call 24/7. So there's a professional staff member on call to support your student. If they have any issues, they can always call public safety and ask for the area coordinator on call to help them to answer any questions or to support them through any process that they're dealing with on campus. Then we have our Dean of Students office. Our Dean of Students, they have drop-in office hours where they're post up actually right in our Barone Campus Center. And they're just there to answer questions and to support our students. They actually deal with our case management team where we have someone from so many different departments on campus, from counseling to our academic assistant deans to residence life to student engagement. But we have someone there, a team of individuals that are there to support your student if we hear of any concerns. Our goal is to really support your student through this transition so that they have all they need. And then we have our Department of Public Safety. So the secret sauce to Fairfield University is our Department of Public Safety are EMT trained. So they're there to even assist with any medical emergencies, which most universities do not have. And they're also trained with our local law enforcement. They're there not to just enforce the law, but really to support our students with safety and to be there for them in case of any emergency. They're also 24/7. I would encourage every parent to have their phone number in your cell phone. So please feel free to install that contact now.
Great. In addition to the Office of Residential Life and the Dean of Students Office and the Department of Public Safety, we also have the Office of Student Engagement. Within this office, our number one priority is ensuring that your first-year students have a successful transition. So there's a tremendous amount of resources and human resources dedicated to the transition of your first-year student. In addition to that, we also focus a lot on leadership development and getting students involved in the university. Julia talked quite a bit that one of the ways to mitigate homesickness is getting involved in the university. So we oversee a tremendous amount of involvement activities, which I'll talk about in a little bit. In addition to leadership opportunities, we also place a strong emphasis on late-night weekend programming, ensure that our students are engaging in healthy, substance-free events on the weekends, especially between the hours of 9 p.m. and 1 a.m. in the mornings. And our office also oversees the traditional events, major traditional events on campus. One of the events that is coming up soon is our Presidential Ball event, which usually hosts over 2,000 of our college students, as well as Alumni Family Weekend, which is coming up in October. And there's a particular slide that will go over some of those traditional events. Our office is located in the Barone Campus Center in the same suite as the Department of Residence Life, and our phone number is right there listed, 203-254-4053, and you can always reach us at engagement@fairfield.edu. Within our office, one of the intentional programs that we oversee, initiatives that we oversee, is called the First Year Experience Program, and that program is essentially dedicated to our first-year students' transitional issues. So we know that Fairfield, the top 3 transitional issues of our first-year students will be time management, homesickness, and coping with stress. So we dedicate a series of seminars that works on that are implemented to essentially help our students navigate those challenges. Those seminars are taught by the new student leader, who is a sophomore, junior, or senior, and many of your first students should have, actually all of them should have met their new student leader, either at June orientation or at fall welcome. They teach the seminar, and that new student leader is also a peer support similar to the resident assistant. They're heavily trained, and they're there to ensure that your students are transitioning successfully. The seminar is also taught by a faculty or staff member known as a community associate, and the NSL, the new student leader, and the community associate, they co-teach the seminar on a weekly basis. So every week, your first-year student has a check-in with the new student leader and community associate, and also tackle a relevant first-year transitional topic. In addition to these seminars, Our friends in academic support we also have academic alerts. So there's an early alert system that's built in that within the first 3 or 6 weeks of school, faculty members will reach out to our friends in academic support and retention and raise a red flag if we are concerned about your students succeeding successfully here at Fairfield. Lastly, I'll mention that our office, like I shared earlier, oversee or work in collaboration with our student government, and our student government oversee clubs and organizations here on campus. There are over 100 of them that exist here on campus, and if there's a club that your son or daughter or your student is not available, but they would like to start, that ability to start a new club is available here at Fairfield through our office.
Awesome. So a great resource that our Office of Student Engagement put together is our Parent and Guardian Guide. A lot of the things and topics and resources that we're mentioning now are actually in that guide. So we strongly encourage you to please read through and look at all the facts that we have there. We talk all about our college lingo there. So we encourage you strongly to please make sure you read through your Parent and Guardian Guide, which you can find on our website, I believe.
Yep, at Fairfield/orientation.
Perfect. So then we have our Office of Academic Support and Retention. This office is dedicated to supporting and advising your student, which are our students, when it comes to any questions they may have. And they're just really there to support them. They will navigate them to the right tutoring places, to making sure that they just have great success. If it's navigating to the right professor to ensure they're getting the extra help they need, we make sure that happens. We also have the Office of Accessibility. Actually, before I go there, let's go back. The Office of Academic and Support Retention, actually, their location has changed. They are in our library. They're in the lower level, which is now our Academic Commons.
And I would like to mention that the Academic Commons was recently created in the library. It also has the Math Center, the Writing Center. So it's really a dedicated commons of support for our students to ensure that our students are thriving academically.
Yes, we're calling it a one-stop shop in a sense. But your student can definitely stop by there to gain any academic support that they need. We also have the Office of Accessibility. The Office of Accessibility, they're there to help with any needs your student may have. I know many parents have already been in contact with our Office of Accessibility. If your student has any concerns or needs any access to any needs or special needs, we encourage you to please contact them. Then we have Project Excel. Project Excel, again, they're also there to support our students and to make sure that they have the tutoring and the mentoring that they need when it comes to their support. So again, as you go through our website, please feel free to look up where all these departments are located. Project Excel is actually located right by our office in the Barone Campus Center. And then we have our Career Center. Our Career Center they've also made some adjustment within the last year or so, where they have different career counselors within different schools to support your student. All they have to do is ask their advisor, and they'll be able to definitely navigate them to the right career counselor. So.
Great. So upcoming major events that are happening on campus, I spoke a little bit about traditional events. One of the traditional events we have, it's actually in our second year. It's our first Fairfield Friday, and that first Fairfield Friday is this Friday. First Fairfield Friday also hosts the Activities Fair as well as the Mass of the Holy Spirit, and there is a series of events that will promote campus spirit, school spirit for our students. We also have the Presidential Ball. Like I mentioned earlier, it's one of the major student events that we have that tends to host over 2,000 of our students. That will be on September 27th. And then we also wanted to ensure that you're aware that fall break is October 14th and 15th. That's when we actually say that students should go home. Until then, our philosophy tends to be, and Julia can chime in on here, tend to be that we like them to stay on campus even on the weekends as much as possible. Unless they're really in a dire situation, they need to come home just to have that home time, that's totally fine. And then we also have a major traditional event called New England Day. PJ, you want to mention more about that?
Yes. So New England Day is where we have actually this what's called a RHA, a Resident Hall Association, every first year building, where they actually get together and plan some great programs and support the community. So on New England Day, they all grab a table and have a bunch of fun and do a bunch of programming activities for their building and actually for their entire campus, but they represent their building. So they'll have apple cider, donuts, a bunch of fall stuff, and that event is usually it's usually around the time of early October. So please look out for that. Your student will definitely hear more and more about that.
Great. And then a fantastic traditional event that we have that we welcome back our families to campus is Alumni and Family Weekend. That will be on October 18th and 19th. For more information about Alumni Family Weekend, please visit fairfield.edu/AFW. You all have to register for AFW, and there are some vouchers that you will probably need to purchase, and then there are free events that you also need to reserve a seat for. The last thing that we'll mention is the Weekender. The Weekender is not an event. It is actually a marketing material that we push out on every Thursday that will communicate to the campus all of the weekend events that are happening here at Fairfield. So if your student is saying they're bored on the weekends, something is wrong, they reference the Weekender. Ask them if you're getting the Weekender email from Office of Student Engagement. And if not, they can definitely talk to their RA, they can talk to their NSL, or come by the Office of Student Engagement and we can see what might be the issue with them not getting the email. The last thing that I would mention is Life at Fairfield. Life at Fairfield is a platform that the university has just recently transitioned to. Within Life at Fairfield, and you all can visit Life at Fairfield if you head to fairfield.edu and type in Life at Fairfield in the search bar, you should see it should be the #1 result. Life at Fairfield is a platform that hosts all of our clubs and organizations. So if a student is looking for a club and org, they can visit Life at Fairfield and they'll see all the clubs and organizations here on campus. And they can actually join the club and org via Life at Fairfield. It also hosts all of our events that are happening on campus, as well as it also will communicate all the leadership opportunities that are available to the campus. And lastly, I'll mention service. So our campus really believes in service. We offer a lot of service opportunities. If our students are looking to get involved in service opportunities, Life at Fairfield will also have those opportunities listed as well, and a lot more. And I think that wraps up our official part of the presentation. We'll now turn it over to you to ask us questions.
Great. So our first question is for Julia. You had mentioned that students can access 24/7 counseling services. Can you just explain what the process is for contacting a counselor if the counseling and psychological services is closed?
Okay, so right, that's a great question. Let me clarify that one. So what happens is if there is a crisis on campus, it's really crisis related, it's not counseling based, but if there's a crisis, the Department of Public Safety will be contacted, and they will determine if a counselor on call should be reached. At that point, if they feel that it's a very serious situation, they will contact somebody 24/7. If a student is looking to schedule an appointment with us, they would call, email, or I think that's all we've got right now is calling and emailing to get an appointment, and they will get an appointment. So that's how we are reached. And just quickly, our extension is 2146. So the number to dial would be 203-254-4000, and it's extension 2146.
Great question.
Great, thank you. So this is for anybody. What would you recommend to a parent whose student is already asking them to visit this weekend and they live 2.5 hours away?
Okay. Okay. So Kamala talked about how absolutely ideally we would like students to stay until the October break. We at counseling will sometimes suggest a more hybrid approach. So visiting your student would be a good step if it feels like it will be helpful to keep them on campus. So it really is situation dependent, and I always say there's no one way through school. So if you also feel that your student could use some more support, I would really encourage them to come see us as well. And we might come to the conclusion that, it would be great if a parent came, but maybe that would be nice for them to think that out loud with somebody else too. So if that would be another good solution.
Julie, would you say it's better for the parent to come to campus than have the student go home?
As a first step, yes, I would suggest coming to campus is a good first step. And again, we sit with all different types of feelings with students, and sometimes it goes very quickly, sometimes it takes a little time, and a little bit of home coming here, or even sometimes going home, is not going to break the situation. Sometimes it can enhance it, and then I have students who will be like, it's so funny, I never want to go home now. So it just, right now, that's what they're saying, so you'll be able to determine that with them or with us as well.
So this next one's for Julia as well. So
Okay.
you mentioned that students can schedule an appointment for the counseling center by email. Can you share their email address with folks?
Off the top of my head, I think it's counseling@fairfield.edu. And it is on our website. We do have a very comprehensive website with all of the ways to reach us on it. But I'm pretty sure that's it, because I make a lot of posters putting that down. So I'd say counseling@fairfield.edu is the way to go.
Thanks. So shifting gears a little bit, previously it was mentioned that there's fitness classes that are offered weekly. Do you know when they start and where the schedule can be found?
So I believe they're actually starting this week, and it actually ranges, it's offered throughout the day. So usually in the early morning, you'll be able to access classes. Also in the middle of the day, usually the lunch hour, there are classes, and then in the evening time. And sometimes, depending on the time of year, we might offer some late night classes as well. If the student heads to Life at Fairfield and type in recreational complex, they should be able to get the information. And I do believe that for many of the classes, you have to register ahead of time for some of the classes, especially the spin classes. I think those tend to fill up fairly quickly.
Yeah.
Great. And going off of that, if there's not a club sport that currently exists, is a student able to create one? And is that hard to start a new sport?
Yeah, my understanding, yes, a student is able to create a club sport. They will actually have to speak to our friends in the recreational complex. So they will see, I'm so sorry. They'll actually see, I believe it's John Dinahan in the recreational complex in order to start a club sport.
Thank you. So another question that we have is a parent or guardian able to call someone to share concerns that they have about their student, but not have their student know that they called?
Definitely you can. So please feel free. Actually, this happens quite often, where parents can actually definitely call the Office of Residence Life or the Dean of Students office, where you can talk with someone and definitely get in contact even with the professional staff member that oversees the building that they live in. And we definitely work to keep things private, and the conversation will stay there. If there are any concerns the parents may bring up, we may have to notify if it's counseling for any emergency. But again, our goal is not to tell your student that you definitely call. Our hope is to support your student through their process as well as support you.
Great, thanks. Back to Julia. So you talked about adjustment disorder. What happens if a student already has depression and anxiety and we can't tell whether or not it's being exasperated like this, or they have to adjust their medication?
That's a really good question. We often do see in the transition that old problems will come up, that the student will come up and say, I thought this was solved. And they may have had a robust recovery from depression or from anxiety or from an eating disorder, and then all of a sudden they come to school and it's surfacing again. So that is not atypical. Again, I would say to come on, send them up to see us. We can help them decide that. It is telltale when a student goes home that the symptoms go away. That is one of our sort of major ways of determining if there's something going on. But it doesn't hurt to send them up. And if they're already engaged, some students Skype, some students are close enough home that they're going home to see their therapist or psychiatrist, maybe encourage a visit just to figure that one out. So either come to us or access the people that are already involved in their care to help puzzle that through.
Great, thank you. PJ, do the TVs in the lounges have regular TV for people to watch, or do they need to use an Amazon stick or a Roku device?
Great question. So the TVs, actually are Roku TVs. If they're not a Roku TV, they actually have a Roku device connected to them, which students can actually access from their phone or iPad, where they can actually download an app to control the TV. Our system is called Philo. That's our cable network, which is a Wi-Fi cable. Each student has access to watch it in the lounge, as well as on their laptop or on their cellular device. So Philo, if you have more questions about it, you can look it up also on our website, and it's PHILO. So.
Great, thanks. And Kamala, this last question is for you. So do you know if there's transportation from campus to New York City on Friday of fall weekend and pick up from the airport on that Monday?
I believe there is. Our Student Government Association usually pays for several transportation to the airport and to the train station. More information will be sent out to the campus through Life at Fairfield, probably maybe a month out from fall break.
Wonderful. So that's all the questions that we have today. Thank you all for tuning in, and thank you to our panelists for putting on this webinar.
Thank you.